The topic is the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and public education in the South. We're talking to Dr. Kelly Sanford. And of course, Dr. Sanford, as we promised during the second segment, that we would give you an opportunity to talk about some other aspects of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and public education in the South. And let's give you an opportunity to do that now.
Okay, and I thank you again. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was very instrumental in trying to allow equal access, equal opportunity. And that brings us to the whole issue of the importance of our students today, family members, to understanding this act and the whole history behind it. We find that at our institutions of higher learning that many are entering and they are not recognizing this act, they're not recognizing what went on during the Civil Rights Movement. Why? Because they were born in the 80s. And that to them is the past. I think we have an obligation to allow our students, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of social class, to know about the history of America and the importance of all of these acts and that occurred throughout the history of America. It's so important. And of course, I make an effort to do that in all of my classes. We will review, if you will, Eyes on the Prize, to give them some historical backdrop of what went on during the Civil Rights Movement so that they can get a feel that they have certain freedoms that other people had to really fight for, protest for, and give up, in many instances, their lives for. So it's very important educationally. This act also allowed us to have certain types of equal opportunities within the labor force, which I always try to share with them, and I think there's a misperception, misinformation in many instances about how this led to a dialogue, if you will, of affirmative action, and how affirmative action is something that was put into place that would allow equal access. But I hear many people, when I watch talk shows, very well educated, probably well-meaning people, that are really giving it a bad name. They would use words like quotas or set-asides, or they would use something like preferences. And this is not what affirmative action is. It wasn't set there for that reason. Because of that historical backdrop that we've already talked about, many people, just by human nature, would not ever think about being equal or think about being fair because we've grown up in a society that was totally unfair. If I may cite very quickly, Alex de Tocqueville, he has an excellent piece entitled Democracy in America. And in that philosophical piece, he indicates very strongly, as he visited America, wanting to look at our penal system, and as he traveled from New York through the Deep South, he could not imagine what he saw. People of African descent, that's right, people of African descent all shackled up. And he said that this has been going on for hundreds of years, that we would never reach a true democracy. And that is why these acts are there for us to know about so that we can continue to fight for equality. You see, if we have that historical backdrop of inequality, and it's been there for such a long period of time, it is actually embedded within the mindset of the culture of America. And that's why we always have to have people who are sensitive to it, educated about it, and that's why a policy such as affirmative action is indeed still needed today. And we have other organizations indeed that really make an effort to try to make some fairness, some justice there, such as the NAACP. They are nonpartisan. They are just trying to fight for equal rights. And I think if you would talk with them, they say, we would like to abolish that organization tomorrow if things were equal, the Urban League. And one of my associations, the Association of Social and Behavioral Scientists, where we've always had a number of scholars who've been a part of that, trying to bring about social change within the society in which we live in, taking a Du Bois model. And before ending this whole idea of affirmative action, helping with this equal access, we have to be very clear that it's there just to give equal access. And not tokenism, where you take a qualified person and then just place them from place to place and remove other people and say, well, by law, we still have a person. That is tokenism. So we have to be very clear on that. It's very egregious in elements to do those types of things within education as well as in the workplace. That is why an act such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is so very important for us to know about and also be very clear on it as we maneuver throughout this 21st century.
You know, Dr. Sanford, we've got about 5 more minutes before we end the show for today. But I'm reminded that when you talk about access in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, that there's so many young people today who perhaps would like to attend an institution of higher education, but somehow feel that since they don't have the financial resources available and whatnot, that it's almost impossible for them to do so. But why don't you say something about the great possibilities that can be achieved, even without the financial resources, if you're willing to work hard and do whatever. Say something.
Absolutely. And I think that's a very important question that needs to be addressed. Education is available, it is here, and there are always ways of being able to enter and to matriculate through the institution of higher learning. In many instances at the university, there are certain types of scholarships, might be certain types of work opportunities while you're there, and in many instances, like many of us, we would work and go to school. But we had as a goal and objective in our life to accomplish an education and to get our degree, because we knew that would help manifest our ideals and our goals in the future. So I would say to any student that is out there to really have your objectives in place, know that you want to achieve it, and go out and work real hard, and you will find people at the institution that will be there and willing to work with you to get the money to be able to go. And sometimes indeed you have to have a part-time job. I know the majority of my students, they work and go to school, and so it is possible to do that. And so I would encourage anyone to do it. But I would also like to say, I think it's very important for us to think about education from pre-kindergarten through elementary school, through junior high school, through high school, before we get there and start learning and doing your very best in school and learning everything that you can so you can be prepared when you get there. That is very important. There are many opportunities and financial assistance available.
You know, Dr. Sanford, during the last 3 minutes we have, let's have you to perhaps say something about the status of education in the South and how for so long the South ranked number 48 or 49 in almost every category. Speak to that and how you see things becoming much better in the southern parts of the United States.
Well, I would hope indeed that they will get better, but we are sitting in a state right now that is still 48th or 49th in the entire union as far as education is concerned. But when we say that, that is not to say that we don't have some private schools that are doing very well. But when you think in terms of public education, there are many southern states that are still way behind as far as equal opportunity, as far as educational success. And I think we really need to have some educators, some people who empower, who are sensitive to that. And this comes from really the top down and all the way down to the local area. But we have to have someone who is really sensitive to it, willing to put some money behind the claim of wanting to have improvements there. I think we have excellent teachers. We're having different social problems that are emerging into the society in which we're living in, because we're living in a telecommunications society and technology, and that's pulling people away from wanting to just sit and read for the sake of reading and feeling they are getting something out of it. So we're going to have to use some very innovative ways of reaching our students today. But if we had that as sincere goals and objectives and tasks to accomplish them, I think we could really have some good outcomes. But we really need to look at it very seriously.
Well, do you think, Dr. Sanford, that we could really say that the stage really might be set to move the state of Tennessee and some of these other southern states